I've been wanting to know, are you the one actually singing and playing the guitar?
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, that is me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
have to learn that for the scene, or did you already know how to do those things?
I already play a little bit of guitar. I'm by no means like a master. And I've played on and off for a few years, but I can learn a tune, I can strum a tune. And I do a little bit of singing too. So that was very much me. And we like when we have a song on the show, we have musical advisors that we get help from, and we basically try and compile a bunch of like, because often it'll be like Michael Hurst will write Billy Sits by the Fire, and he thinks of Barbara or he thinks of his mum and begins to strum a tune. And then we have to kind of find a song that feels correct. So we go through like the period archives and we find a period appropriate song, and sometimes it's maybe like a Western folk song, that's very kind of American and Americana, or sometimes, and I think this one was one of these. Sometimes it's more like an Irish folk song that's been around for like hundreds of years, like hundreds of years before Billy even. And it's really fun. It's really fun to like learn an old folk song from like England in the 1700s or something that has made its way all the way through to the West, and that some of them are still even around now. So it's a cool little deep dive into history.
Yeah, no, that's awesome how, music can connect into the story and
Yeah.
Billy, and you sounded so good. So
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to make sure if it was you, I wanted to give you the praise. So
It
yay.
is, and I don't think most people notice, so it's really nice. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, so that was the easy question. Going into Billy and Jesse, their relationship is complicated to say the least. They've had multiple chances to kill each other, but there's always something stopping them. Can you talk about their journey and where we see them in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I think it's really just like an exploration of brotherhood, like they're not brothers by blood, but they are brothers by experience. Like that, Billy met Jesse in the series when he was very young and kind of naive, and Jesse taught him like everything he knows about gunslinging and cattle rustling and how to survive, basically. And I think because of that, they're kind of bonded by experience, right? It's like players on the same team, even if they grow apart or they go on different teams, it's like they'll have always had that experience together. Or you hear about people who have served in the military as well. It's like they might drift apart, but if they see them again, there's like a camaraderie there, right? And so that's kind of how Daniel and I play it and talk about it. Is like it's almost as if they were in the military together and they've been through some stuff, and now when they see each other, even though they're supposed to be on opposite sides, it's like they can't pull the trigger. They can't do that to each other. There's almost like more respect for each other than they could ever have for their bosses or for their different factions. Um, but yeah, it's fun to play. It's a kind of a relationship that I don't think I've seen that much on screen before. And it's fun to play with Daniel, especially because he's such a great actor. He's such a physical actor, so like it really feels like we're going head to head sometimes.
Another old friend, we were left with the cliffhanger that Pat is the new sheriff.
Yeah.
That's like a dilemma for Billy. It's like old friends versus the cause that he's kind of fighting for.
Yeah.
So how is he kind of navigating that?
I think this part two of season two coming soon is uh is basically like between Jesse, Pat, all the people in the house that he used to ride with. Um, he is basically like kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because he's met these new people, these new friends, George and Charlie and all these people, the Tunstall faction, who he really knows are good people. They're like they mean well. They're trying to bring peace to Lincoln, and he believes in it. But he has these old compadres who he used to ride with, who like now he's finding himself on the opposite side of. And I think when we catch up at the beginning of part two, he still has hope that maybe they could come to his side, or maybe at the very least they'll see the error of their boss's ways and like cut ties. And it might not go the way he's hoping.
We see him stepping into a leadership role, and that continues in part two.
Yeah.
What do you think makes him a good leader, and why do you think men, choose to follow Billy?
Yeah, I think like often they say, right, the best leaders are the people who didn't seek out being a leader, like the people who kind of other people tell them that they should be leader. Um, and I think people are always distrustful of the person who really believes that they should be the leader, because usually that comes from ego and comes from pride and like hunger for power and all that stuff. Whereas Billy doesn't really have any of that stuff. He doesn't really lead with his ego. He doesn't really lead with pride. Um, he is he kind of leads with like his nose. He's got instinct. He leads with his instinct, and I think other people around him see that, and they see that that instinct is then backed up with like a specific set of skills that he has, and he becomes like the natural leader, even though he's not. Maybe it's the last thing he wants to do. I think that's when he meets Tunstall. He's so glad that someone else is in charge. I think he's so glad that he can be a follower and not a leader. And then when he loses Tunstall, he kind of doesn't have a choice.